Last weekend, the head of the Sikh Federation of Canada was warned by the RCMP about a credible threat to his and his family's lives. Moninder Singh was a close collaborator of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. The activist was murdered in BC back in 2023. Now, the four alleged hitmen are all Indian nationals. Moninder Singh joins me right now. Mr. Singh, thanks for being here and welcome back to Power Play.
Thank you for having me.
You've received a warning from Vancouver Police this week about a credible threat on your life and your family's lives, which you have said that you believe is linked to the Indian government. I wanted to know, what leads you to believe that?
I think the first duty to warns I've received were in July of 2022 alongside Mr. Nijjar, who was assassinated a year later. Since then, over a dozen Sikh activists have been given these warnings across the country. None of us have been asked for money. We haven't been extorted. It's all our political activism that kind of lines up this idea with India. On the flip side, you also have the Canadian government with Mr. Trudeau saying that India was behind Mr. Nijjar's murder. We had Mike Duham from the RCMP as the National Commissioner saying that India was behind this wave of violence and extortion that was happening in Canada as well. And the Deputy Foreign Minister, David Morrison, in the past stated that Amit Shah, the Home Minister for India, Ajit Doval, who's their National Security Advisor, in connection with Mr. Shah, are like the architects of this violence in Canada. So when we add up that, the pattern shows that it would be India for our political activism, for sovereignty, and for the Sikh people in the form of Khalistan, that this is why this targeting threats, these duty to warns that are being provided to the activists in Canada.
So you've done a good job of sort of giving a bit of a backstory on some of what we've heard in the last couple of years with regards to threats and apparent threats from India. Wednesday, a senior official in the Canadian government said in a briefing, a background briefing to journalists, that the Indian government is no longer linked to violent crimes or threats on Canadian soil. How does the Sikh community feel about that assessment?
I think it was ludicrous for somebody to actually make a statement like that. And then, you know, the very next day, the Minister of Public Safety, Mr. Anand Sagri, had to backtrack, stating that as in Canada has a lot of work to do still with Indian threats to activists in Canada. So one of the things in the community was this confusion as to like, well, which one is it? And that doesn't bode well for our Prime Minister and a party that's going to India right now to conduct trade deals with a country that has Canadian blood on their hands for killing Canadians on Canadian soil, as per our law enforcement agencies and national security. So I think it makes us very wary of how we can trust such a government when they're dealing with like a rogue state like India that undermines Canada's electoral system. It conducts foreign interference as per the Hague Commission for Foreign Interference, and it conducts transnational repression, as we've heard from our law enforcement agencies.
At the same time, on this show yesterday, a Liberal Member of Parliament, Sikh Dhaliwal, condemned that statement from that official. But he also said, with the PM in India, quote, he will make sure that when it comes to the rule of law and Canadian lives, it will take a priority over trade. Does that give you any comfort when a Liberal member says that about the Prime Minister and his trip in India?
I think Mr. Dhaliwal has in the past stood firm on this issue, and there's a deep appreciation for that in the community as well, that he does so. I think that our issue is actually more with what Mrs. Anand's comments have been over the last year, this law enforcement to law enforcement dialogue that she keeps speaking about. If there was anything that would have borne fruit from that, or anything positive result, we wouldn't see the violence that we see on Canadian streets. We wouldn't see the extortions going up, the violence going up, the threats going up, duty to warns being issued again. All of that is increasing. It's not actually decreasing. So it gives little, I would say, hope for the Sikh community to hear just from Mr. Dhaliwal, when they should be coming from the ministerial level. It should be coming from the Prime Minister's level, that Canadian lives are more important than just trade. And I just have to say that Mrs. Anand, if she is having these dialogues, that either she's extremely ineffective at what she's doing, or there's actually no conversations happening at all, and this is just lip service for the Sikh community. And either one is going to be a horrible result for Canada when it comes to public safety and security.
So concretely, if the Prime Minister doesn't bring up foreign interference or transnational repression with Modi, would you call Prime Minister Carney's trip to India a failure?
I think engaging with them at this level already is a failure. I think anything beyond this, like if they wanted to make any amends to what they're doing to Canadians in general, I'm born and raised in this country. I have a wife and child. I'll do anything I can by any means necessary to protect my family like I think any other person in this country would do. And it's unfortunate I'm having to make that type of statement, but those are the realities that we're living with in Canada right now. And it's all to do with Mr. Modi, his government, as our law enforcement and national security agencies have said. So I would definitely say that unless this conversation actually reaches a point of actually resulting in some tangible result, which would actually be holding the government of India to account in some way and not rewarding them with trade deals, I fear that it's a failure before they even land there.
So you think this trip is a mistake?
I think it's a serious mistake on our part, putting public safety in jeopardy the way we are. We have the High Commissioner for India that has repeatedly come on multiple Canadian platforms for media and said that this is a Canadian issue, this is not an Indian issue, basically disregarding all of our national security agencies, all of our law enforcement, our government, any statement that any reasonable people in Canada have made, calling them basically lies. So there's no accountability and there's no responsibility taken for what they've actually done. And then how do you have a conversation in good faith with a country like that? If we're talking trade and economics, there's 200 other countries in the world that will buy the type of material that Canada wants to sell, and we can trade with them from Europe to South America to the African continent. India as a partner in the Indo-Pacific, I think this is overshadowing safety and security back home, and I think the results are in front of us when we see the violence just continuously rising across communities in Canada.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it on that note. Moninder Singh, the head of the Sikh Federation of Canada, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you again for having me.